Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for organizing this for all of us to be able to come in and talk about what our plans are. Originally a Boston guy, came out here to join the LAPD back in 1981, went to the academy, worked my way up through the ranks, worked all over the city, and had the opportunity to retire as the number 2 in the organization under Bill Bratton. Throughout those years, I had worked alongside the LA County Sheriff's Department and had been a big fan of the department. I went to Long Beach as Chief of Police in 2010 and spent the last 4 years there, again working alongside the Sheriff's Department. And again, the relationships over the years have been good, and I have been an admirer of that department. I've been troubled in recent years to watch what's happened in that department with the issues that we are all well aware of, and to watch morale sink, to watch the productivity of the organization not be what it could be, and the issues that have become so prevalent are a stain not only on the Sheriff's Department, but on every professional police officer in the country. In looking at what needed to be done, I had the opportunity, I was appointed in 2012 by Supervisor Don Canavi to sit on the Jail Commission. In doing that, I saw things, I heard testimony from people that I didn't believe was happening next door. And over again, we heard accounts of stories, and some of them were related to you by the other candidates here before I spoke. But you're all, I'm sure, well aware of what the issues are. In looking at that, I weighed what the needs of the organization are and what I believed I brought to the table. Having been through transformational change in both the LAPD and the Long Beach PD, I believe that that's something that will work well in moving forward. I had the opportunity to be able to exercise those skills in both organizations. And I believe really an outside set of eyes is the right fit for today. Somebody who can come in with 33 years of law enforcement experience in LA County, be able to use that experience, be able to go in and build a solid team within the organization. As was stated earlier, the vast majority of the members, both professional staff and sworn in the organization, dedicate their life to public safety, work hard every day, and are honorable people. The leadership has been the issue here in the past several years. So to be able to go in, to be able to use the skill sets, the education, the experience, the training, and relationships that I've had over those 33 years, I believe it's the right fit at the right time. So I'm looking forward, thank you, to moving ahead on that. And I'd like to open it up now for any thoughts, questions you have that I may be able to answer. Yes, please.
Sir, my name is Aileen, and I'd like to know how you're going to manage the Sheriff's Department budget, being that you've overspent your campaign budget according to the Times.
Yeah, good question. We haven't the way it's laid out there, it's a long-term plan, and that's the way you do it, to be able to buy slate mailers and those kind of things. You have to lock down the money. That's a campaign answer. As far as how I'm going to manage the $2.8 billion budget, I'm going to look at bringing in a CFO from a corporate entity that has experience in dealing with giant budgets like this one, to look for efficiencies, to look for better ways to be able to create other ways of doing things, to get some fresh eyes in that perspective as well. As you heard earlier, we had 2 of our candidates here have managed the budget for the department. And to be fair to them, 2 sharp guys, but we're all cops. We're not career accountants, career financial people. So I think there are opportunities to be gained by bringing a fresh set of eyes in that regard as well. So the management of the budget is by putting the best and the brightest in charge of it, holding everybody accountable, setting goals, setting milestones to work toward those goals, and be able to then achieve what we're trying to achieve over time and celebrate the success. Thank you. Sir?
My name is Mark Reed. I'm a congressional candidate for the West San Fernando Valley. My great-grandfather's a retired sergeant from the LAPD, and a lot of my family is LAPD and fire department as well. You mentioned you're on the commission of the jail systems.
Right.
Our jails, and I appreciate your service, and thank you for your service as well to the quality of life of the Angelinos in Los Angeles.
Thank you, sir.
The prison systems are out of control pertaining to cost. And the unions pertaining to the prison guards unions are out of control as costs. It costs $54,000 per inmate in LA County Jail. How are you going to get those costs under control? So this way, when our police officers, both in LA County Sheriff and in Los Angeles Police Department, when they rope and choke and drag them in, they're actually going to be incarcerated for a little while and pay the price for their crime.
Yeah. No, great question. Looking at the cost of incarceration is extremely high. That number you quoted, I believe, is a state prison quote, but I'm not sure on that as far as the correlation with LA County Jail. In looking at that, I think there's opportunities for us, a number of opportunities to be able to look at how do we screen people for incarceration? Who do we keep in jail? Do we have a risk assessment factors that we look at to be judicious in who we release, who we know that won't be, or who we can hope that won't be a threat to the community? Look at the potential for using electronic monitoring devices on people, ones that are effective. Look at pretrial release under the right circumstances. And then the issue of mental illness, which we've all kicked around here for some time. There were the estimates I've heard, up to 20% of the people in LA County Jail have mental illness issues. Many of them are there because they're acting out on that illness. And if we're able to try and rally and to be advocates for community-based mental health clinics where people can get treatment on the front end rather than using incarceration as the only tool, then we're in a better position to be able to lower costs by lowering the number of people in the system to begin with. I think there's a lot of opportunities. I would bring in experts from around the country to be able to look at, from universities, from places like PERF, Police Executive Research Forum, the RAND Corporation, and other people who make a living on focusing on problem solving in that regard, to be able to take a look at what we're dealing with and to get a model that's replicatable nationwide. So I think there are opportunities. It is very costly, but it's where we're sitting right now. As far as dealing with the union that you mentioned, probably the strongest union in the state. But those are issues that need to be dealt with, but need to be dealt with at the state level. That's not something that the LA County Sheriff would have much to do with, to be honest with you. Sir?
Yes. With the other two candidates, the same question will be presented to you with regards to the Second Amendment and concealed carry. How you stand on that?
Yeah, thank you. Much the same answer. And as they were answering it without belaboring it, a believer in the Second Amendment, but also want to be judicious about not putting into place something that we can't undo, can't unring the bell once the Supreme Court, either the en banc decision comes back or the Supreme Court decision comes back, that may not be in line with where we're moving now. So I think the smart thing for the county right now is to be able to watch and wait and then take a position later, follow the law as the law comes back to us. Sir?
Will you be using the good cause requirements to include or exclude the citizens from their right to carry?
You know what, looking at what comes back as far as what becomes the law for us, how do they interpret what good cause is, that's what we'll look at. We're law enforcement officers, the legislators, the court make the laws, the courts interpret the laws, and we try and carry that out to the best of our ability. Yes, sir.
David Hernandez, Valley Village. It's my second forum, and in following the race, all of the challenges that have been addressed have been toward the Sheriff's Department. And you being an outsider, seems like that kind of gives you a pass. But what I'm thinking is, in reviewing the conduct with the Los Angeles Police Department, which I'm a strong supporter.
Right.
But when we look at the audit that came out the audit was held up until Chief Bratton left. But when it came out about the purchasing practices, when it came out about the single bid contract for the police building that came in with a single bid, which violated all policy and was $250 million over budget, how are you going to address those type of challenges within the Sheriff's Department if they've basically gone unaddressed within the police department?
Right, good question. And looking at that, I'm not familiar with exactly what you're talking about, but generally something like that for a major infrastructure project is not done by the police department. The police department have representatives on the committee that would look at what the needs of the building would be pursuant to the needs of the police department. The Department of General Services are the ones who put that all together, and there's a cadre of people, building and safety, and other city departments that weigh in on those factors. So how that got to where it was, I wish I could answer. I can research it. But when in any big organization, there are going to be problems. It's not if there are problems, it's what you do when you find them. Mm-hmm. And do you put systems in place to be able to track them, to be able to ensure that they don't occur again? I think that's really the big thing in anything, whether we're talking about use of force, whether we're talking about risk management in any regard, or spending the public's money. It's being prudent, and then when a mistake is made, or if you error, then you fix it. Thank you. Sir?
Yeah, how would you address what is apparently the escalating use of force by police officers and sheriffs against the public? Most recently, the shooting in New Mexico. I know that's out of the state, but it is an example. It seems that the law enforcement seems to be going more for the gun quicker and using them against the people. How would you address that situation?
Yeah, I would question the fact that it is escalating. I think that you see situations, anytime we have a use of force situation, that significant use of force, an officer-involved shooting in particular, we tear that apart. We break that down to its most basic elements. We evaluate it against reasonable, what the reasonable officer would do, and then look at the drawing and exhibiting of the weapon, the tactics leading up to it, and the incident of use of force itself, and then what was done subsequent to that. So I can talk about Long Beach and Los Angeles, that when we have a significant incident like that, we look at it critically 72 hours after the incident, break it down into its component parts, and we're very, very critical in an effort to be better next time. So again, it's part of the job. Use of force is part of the job, and when we talk about people throw out excessive use of force, that's not tolerated. We break it down, we deal with it, and when we come up with something that can result in training, whether it's at the individual level or at the department level or beyond, we try and share those best practices as good as we can. So every time we evaluate a use of force, we hope to come away with something more than we started with, for the benefit of everybody, the public and members of the department. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim McDonnell.